of lust, anger, greed, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. So then again he says, for one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So the dictation of the Lord comes in two ways. One is internally. Krishna can speak to us internally, but we should always get the confirmation of bona fide Guru. So this is explained in the 18th chapter, 58th verse, where it says, that no conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 7th chapter, 5th verse, in the purport, Prabhupada says, within the super soul becomes spiritual master, and without he becomes spiritual master as scriptures, saints, and initiator, spiritual master. So we have dictation from within, and we have dictation from without. From within, Paramatma is dictating to us, and from without, saints, the scriptures, and initiating and instructing spiritual masters are dictating to us. Dictating means they're speaking with authority, basically informing us what should be done and what should not be done.
What is the verse number?
In Srimad Bhagavatam?
No, this Bhagavad-Gita.
The 18th chapter, verse 59. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's 175. So we're dictated to internally and externally, and the constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. So those philosophers who claim that we're independent of any superior, especially God, and we should just depend on our own reason, logic, and science to figure out how to solve the problems of life. So that is a totally misleading, false philosophy. Due to the four defects of the living entity, we can never figure out exactly what should be done and what should not be done. There's a verse that says, Pavritim cha, nivritim cha. That the living entity doesn't really know what should be done and what should not be done. It's only when, just like a child, does a child know what should be done and what should not be done?
No, bro.
No, they don't know. If the parents don't instruct them, they'll never learn. And so let's look at the 16th chapter, 7th verse. 16th chapter, 7th verse. Says, Pavritim cha nivritim cha janana vidur asura na socham na pichachara na satyam tesu vidyate. So this verse says, those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. Okay, who wants to read the purport? You want to read? Oh, go ahead. Give him the microphone there.
16:7.
Yes. 16:7.
In every civilized human society, there's some set of scriptural rules and regulations which is followed from the beginning, especially among the Aryans who adopt the Vedic civilization and who are known as the most advanced civilized people.
That's your name, right? Aryan? You're in the Bhagavad-Gita?
Those who do not follow the scriptural injunctions are supposed to be demons. Therefore, it is stated that the demons do not know the scriptural rules, nor do they have any inclination to follow them. Most of them do not know them, and even if some of them know, they have not the tendency to follow them. They have no faith, nor are they willing to act in terms of Vedic injunctions. The demons are not clean, either externally or internally. One should always be careful to keep his body clean by bathing, brushing teeth, shaving, changing clothes, etc. As far as internal cleanliness is concerned, one should always remember the holy names of God and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The demons neither like nor follow all these rules for external and internal cleanliness. As for behavior, there are many rules and regulations guiding human behavior, such as the Manu Samhita, which is the law of the human race. Even up to today, those who are Hindu follow the Manu Samhita. Laws of inheritance and other legalities are derived from this book. Now, in the Manu Samhita, it is clearly stated that a woman should not be given freedom. This does not mean that women are to be kept as slaves, but they are like children. Children are not given freedom, but that does not mean they're kept as slaves. The demons have now neglected such injunctions, and they think that women should be given as much freedom as men. However, this has not improved the social condition of the world. Actually, a woman should be given protection at every stage of life. She should be given protection by the father in her younger days, by the husband in her youth, and by her grown-up sons in her old age. This is the proper social behavior according to Manu Samhita. But modern education has artificially devised a puffed-up concept of womanly life, and therefore marriage is practically now an imagination in human society. Nor is the moral condition of women very good now. The demons, therefore, do not accept any instruction which is good for society, and because they do not follow the experience of great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the demoniac people is very miserable.
Yeah, so now the feminists, these are women and men also, who think that men and women should have equal, not opportunity, everyone should have equal opportunity, but equal freedom. Well, no one is free in the material world, right? Everyone, whether men or women, are bound by the modes of material nature, karma, time, duality, illusion, lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, right? They're bound by all these things, everybody. So, to believe that one is free to act is a big mistake, whether it's a man or a woman. When we're not serving Krishna, we're being forced to act by the laws of material nature, by all these things, right? The modes of material nature, time, karma, duality, and then lust, anger, greed, etc. So, therefore, it's absolutely necessary. And no one can really figure out what they should do and what they should not do. It says here the demoniac, the demonic do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. But actually, if you look at 18:30, chapter 18, verse 30, let's read that one. Who wants to read? Go ahead, you read again.
Buddhirbeda. Wait. 30?
Yeah. Pavritim cha nivritim cha.
Pravritim cha nivritim cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha ye vitti buddhi sa partha sattviki. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness.
Okay, so the demons can't figure this out. They always end up doing the wrong thing. But someone in the mode of goodness has a better chance to figure this out. What is to be done, what is not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding, what is liberating. Okay, read the purport.
Performing actions in terms of the directions of the scriptures is called pravritti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed. And actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding what discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness.
Right. So, therefore, as we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we in Bhagavad-Gita 1858, that we're getting instructions from within, from Paramatma. And we're getting instructions from without, from Scripture, saints, and gurus. So, it's not that we're bereft of knowledge. Knowledge is all around us. But if we become influenced by demoniac philosophies, that you're independent, you have to rely on your own power of reason, logic, and science, then you'll be misled. And what usually happens is people are addicted to sense gratification, either through piety or impiety. You can get sense gratification by being pious. You perform Vedic rituals, or you do different types of tapasya, and so forth. Or you can be impious first and attain sense gratification, just blatantly engage in sinful activity. So both of those, pious means of attaining sense gratification, impious ways of attaining sense gratification. The goal is still sense gratification, and the result is we get caught in the material world and we can't get out. Because we're convinced by modern education, demoniac philosophers, that we're independent and we have to figure things out for ourselves. That's called inventing the wheel in every generation. Do we have to reinvent the wheel in every generation? No. It's already invented hundreds and thousands of years ago, right? So why should we reinvent it? But as long as we reject the Vedic authority and the ultimate guru, Krishna, we'll be engaged in reinventing the wheel in every generation. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll come back to the 6th chapter. Now we're on verse number 8. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vichitendriya yuktahi uchite yogi samalostrasma kanchana. Okay, so who's going to... What?
6th chapter, verse 8.
Who's going to read? Okay, Good, you read.
A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by the virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-control. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport also. Okay.
Read.
Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriya sevan mukhe hi jivagni swayam eva spurati ada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord, or the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. This Bhagavad-Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by the apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones.
Yes, so let me give you an example of mundane knowledge or mere academic knowledge. Like, for example, there is a man who he's a big professor and scientist in Australia, and he claims that that man can create fusion energy using lasers. He's been working on this since 1970. And relatively inexpensively and without any radiation or dangerous byproducts. Now, on the other hand, 35 European countries, world countries, including the United States, for the last 10 years have spent over $30 billion building a special type of reactor, nuclear reactor, and this is in southern France, in order to produce fusion energy. Fusion energy, they believe, is the method by which the sun creates a huge amount of energy every day, and it's been going on from time, since the beginning of time. So they want to replicate, or they want to make the energy in the same way. So they've spent all this money. Okay, we'll continue after the opening of Jesus.
Yashomati Nandana Brajabaro Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Brajabaro Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadana Vadana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vedana Amala Harinam Mamiya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Bamsi Badana Suvasa Brajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Nanda Godana Rakovala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Yamuna Tatara Gopi Vasanara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Yashomati Nandana Brajo Varona Gadra Gokula Ranjana Gana Yashomati Nandana Brajo Varona Gadra Gokula Ranjana Gana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jagannatha, Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jai Subhadra. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Prahlad Narasimha. Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivijak Acharya Astodhara Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. All glories.
भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिर गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की द्वारका मधुरा पूरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की भक्तिदेव तुलसी महारानी की सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay, so I was giving an example of, the scientist, yeah. So, this is in the news recently. It says, a laser-driven technique for creating fusion. So there's explosion and there's fusion, right? So an atomic bomb is based on explosion. The way you drive your car is based on explosion. You know, you have your cylinders, some gas is injected, and a spark plug gives a spark, and there's explosion of the gas, and then the cylinder goes up and down, right? And then makes the wheels turn. There's another type of energy. It's called fusion. So when there's an explosion, energy is released. But energy is also released when there's fusion, when there's a coming together of atoms. And it says, a laser-driven technique for creating fusion that dispenses with the need for radioactive fuel elements and leaves no toxic radioactive waste is now within reach, say researchers. Dramatic advances in powerful high-intensity lasers are making it viable for scientists to pursue what was once thought impossible, creating fusion energy based on hydrogen-boron reactions. And an Australian physicist is in the lead, armed with a patented design and working with international collaborators on the remaining scientific challenges. Okay, that's what he says. But it just so happens that there are 35 nations that have invested, I thought it was 30 billion, but it might be more than that, to build what's called a deuterium-tritium fusion approach. And it's being pursued by the United States National Ignition Facility, NIF, and the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor under construction in France. It'll finish the construction in 2030, right? 18 years from now. And it's cost a huge amount of money. So along comes this other scientist and said, we can do it for hardly any money at all through lasers. And lasers can produce much more energy than, and much freer, and then without any radioactivity, by this other approach that the scientists in Australia has. So here we see that there's constant speculation going on. Now, are the scientists going to be able to do this with the laser technology rather than the other technologies? Not sure. We don't know for sure. No, well, they're going to achieve unlimited free energy. Not free, but it's unlimited energy with no, side effects. No toxic ingredients produced. That's what they're claiming. Whether it's true or not. See, right now, they're producing huge amount of energy using oil and oil derivatives like gas, right? But it has, what they call the carbon imprint. It produces byproducts that are toxic. Then then you have nuclear energy, but it also produces radioactivity and toxic materials. Now you have another one where they're using fusion energy, but it also has toxic materials. So these people have come along, they say with using lasers, we'll produce fusion energy and there'll be no toxic materials. Is that true? We don't know for sure. Will they be able to do it? We don't know for sure. So this is the problem with academic knowledge, mere academic knowledge, right? And what's Prabhupada saying here, it says, a Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. Well, that's the point. Here, 35 nations have embarked on a huge project. It already began in 1990s, and it's going to go on till 2030 before they'll know if it works or not. Yeah. Well, the reason you're asking that question is because you're not sure that spiritual knowledge will give you all the qualifications to make money in the material world. You're thinking that if I just have spiritual knowledge, then I probably won't be able to get a job that pays good money. However, spiritual knowledge includes knowledge of the material world, right? but not from the materialist point of view, but from the spiritual point of view. So, once you have spiritual knowledge, you can also earn a living honestly. Like, for example, there's a man that just died in Israel. He was a rabbi, right? And he has close to 1 million followers. Now, this rabbi, he lived like a yogi his whole life. Although he had so many followers, right? And if he asked them, they would give him all the money he wants, right? But he never accepted anything. He always lived very simply in a little house with his family, and was always honest and so forth, right? And he never lacked anything, but he never tried to expand himself economically, right? There's a man, he's not a devotee, but he's some kind of a spiritual man, he's a guru, definitely a guru. For he has up to 1 million disciples. Imagine. But was he a failure? In his funeral there were 1 million people. 1 million people came to his funeral. Now, was he confused about life? No, he was always dedicated to God his whole life. And he lived a very simple life. He had a family, he raised his kids. I think he had 6 or 8 kids. So now the question is, if you dedicate your life to spiritual knowledge and do not try for academic knowledge, will you be able to make a living? Will you be able to get married? Will you be able to have kids? Will you be able to send them to school? Will you be able to have food on the table? The answer is yes. And there are many examples of it. Just like this rabbi in Israel. There's one example. What is the key? The key is, Prabhupada said, if you preach, you will be successful. And then the understanding is, if you don't preach, you will not be successful. So, to be trained properly, to be a genuine preacher of Krishna consciousness. So, what examples do we have? We have Goswamis, we have Haridas Thakur, we have Lord Chaitanya himself, and you have Srila Prabhupada. You have millions of people who have followed this path, and they succeeded. So Prabhupada, when he graduated college, he refused to take the degree as a protest against the British. He was a follower of Gandhi. So now, he refuses to get a good degree after studying all those years in college. So how's he going to make a living? The only way he can make a living is to work for someone or start his own business. So he starts by working for someone. And because it's a friend of his father's and he's a big industrialist, he gets a big position. But then he leaves that and starts his own business. And he was always able to maintain his family. He had 5 kids and so forth. But then he meets his guru, and then he starts cultivating seriously Krishna consciousness. He was already Krishna conscious, but now he cultivates it seriously under the guidance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he prepares himself, because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ordered him, you have to preach, and you have to print books and preach in English. Prabhupada's first language is not English, but he trained himself to follow his guru's orders. And look at all the success he had. So is he a failure? No. And he did not get specific training for what he was doing. He got it through practical experience. I mean, when he was married, he had a pharmacy. He opened a pharmacy in Allahabad or Prayag, and he was able to make a living. He made products, and of course, the rules at that time and the rules today are more formalized. But see, you don't have to go to school to learn how to do things. You can work for somebody. And it's called apprenticeship. You can go to work for someone, and they'll teach you everything that you need to know. Just like my daughter sent one of her sons to this man in Orissa, who taught him how to carve wood. Right? He didn't pay him any money. He would just work for free, and the wood carver taught him how to carve wood. Now he knows how to carve wood, but he would have had to continue with that wood carver for another couple more years to become a big expert. So you don't have to go to these academic institutions to learn how to do something. Like, for example, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they dropped out of college. They didn't get their college degree. But yet, they're both tremendously successful. So it all depends on, but that material success is not the criterion. The criterion is spiritual success. So you have someone like Srila Prabhupada. He's much more successful than Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, because he has millions of people that love him. Bill Gates has millions of people that envy him, right? But you can't say they actually love him. So there are a lot of, to answer your question, yes. You don't have to have academic knowledge to succeed in life. Just with spiritual knowledge, you will succeed better than if you had academic knowledge. Like, for example, I'll give you another example. Just yesterday, there's this man in Canada. He's one of the richest men in Canada. He has the biggest pharmaceutical company in Canada. It's like number 5 pharmaceutical company in the world. He and his wife were murdered in their home. Right. And it was done in a way to make it seem to be a murder-suicide, but actually now the police actually think they were murdered. And why? Because this man was engaging in a lot of business deals, and he got into a big argument with some relatives, and now the suspicion is that they were murdered. So you see, and this guy has PhD from Harvard. He's a big, scientist, a huge pharmaceutical company. So he had tremendous material success, but look at the way his life ended, he and his wife. So you cannot just put all your faith in academic knowledge. But you can put all your faith in Krishna consciousness, and you will be a success if you follow Prabhupada's instruction. If you preach, you will be successful, yes.
I feel that if education is important in one sense, but I realize that if anybody follows something seriously and focusedly, he can achieve anything.
Yes.
He doesn't have to go to schools and other things to study there, basically.
No. I mean, all the education I got, it didn't really help me, other than knowing how to speak English. Didn't really help me in the business I started. I learned as I went along. Right? So, and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are examples. People, they dropped out of school. They thought it was a waste of time. And they achieved tremendous success. Okay.
Only one question related to chapter 6, verse 6.
Yes.
We have mentioned, as long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy,
Yes.
one has to solve the depression of lust, anger, greed,
Avarice, which means greed, illusion, madness, and envy. Those are the 6 degrading qualities.
lust, anger,
Greed. Avarice means greed.
illusion, envy.
Envy and madness.
So my question is only, so this comes through the sense objects. So can we say that we are driven by sense objects? The mind is controlled by the sense objects?
The mind that's corrupted by false concepts. What is the false concept? I am this body, and sense gratification in life is my goal. Then one becomes attracted to material objects in order to exploit them for his sense gratification. Okay? And thus, then, therefore, he's taking the dictation at that point of lust, anger, greed, envy, madness, and illusion. They're dictating to him what to do. Like if you want something, you can't get it, then your anger and frustration dictate to you. Right? So you might kill somebody, or you might lie, or you might steal, or you might work day and night like a madman to get something that you want. But the end result is sense gratification. And sense gratification is achieved in two ways: through piety and through impiety. Through pious activities and through sinful activities. Both ways you can attain sense gratification. So therefore, people engage in all kinds of pujas and ritual activities, but the goal is sense gratification. The business should do better, their kids should pass SAT test, their grandmother should get better, she had a heart attack, she should get better. And they're performing all these ritual activities for this material benefits. If the priest tells them, you're not going to get anything out of this puja, they'll say, well, then I'll go to another priest. They'll shop around for the priest that can promise them success in their material desires. And then you can get sense gratification through impiety, through sinful activities. You just force people. You choke them until they do what you want them to do. So as soon as one has corrupted intelligence, corrupted by material desires for sense gratification, then one is being dictated to by lust, anger, greed, and so forth. And we know that. Like, for example, let's say you want a promotion in your business, right, in your work, and there's another person who doesn't really work seriously, but socializes nicely, and actually, psychologically manipulates people, and he gets the promotion, you don't get the promotion, although you did the work and he didn't really do the work. So, are you happy with that? Are you happy with that?
Right now, I would say that earlier I used to say that I will be not happy, but here I will take it as I won't mind.
No, I'm sure you're going to mind. You're going to mind. For sure you're going to get upset. Okay, you did get upset before. You're saying you don't get upset anymore?
I mean, I don't care about all these things, until normal life is going on.
No, people get upset with this. So, why are you getting upset? Because you feel there's injustice. You feel as if that this person is not qualified, but he's just a manipulator. He manipulated you, manipulated the boss, put on a show, and he's being promoted, and you're not being promoted, although you did the work, you were loyal, you came on time, you gave the deliverables, etc. So you start thinking, I'm going to do something to this person, or I'm going to write a letter to the boss and tell him this person's a nonsense, out of anger. So what's dictating to you? Anger and envy. These things are dictating, and you follow that dictation. You get a plan how to ruin this guy. You see. So unless, okay, now you're saying before I would get angry, now I don't get angry. Why?
Because I feel that goal of life is something else. It's not like what we are trying to achieve in material world. if we put our mind into that exercise.
Okay, what is the goal of life? That's something else.
The goal of life is to self-realize and love Krishna and to understand him more and more.
So therefore you'll tolerate. Yeah. Well, that means that you have what's called Matrasparsastu konteya sitostastu kudukataha agamapayano nityas tamstatikshasva bharata. So the second chapter, verse number 14, I think. Yes. So, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Skayana Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So let's read that purport, 2:14.
In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January to February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take this bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season.
In India.
One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya, illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant.
So you see, there's two components for liberation: knowledge and devotion. We're talking about spiritual knowledge, not talking about academic knowledge. Spiritual knowledge and devotion. Therefore, you can control these urges, lust, anger, greed, and so forth. Instead of being dictated to by them, you're being dictated to by Shastra, saints, and gurus. If you don't accept Shastra, saints, and gurus, you'll be dictated by lust, anger, greed, and so forth. Go ahead.
The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kanteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties, and therefore he cannot avoid fighting.
Right. So there's an interesting verse about this. I think it's the 16th chapter. That says, Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nibandana Suri Mata Masucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijato Sipandava. 16.5. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. And the purport, Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demoniac qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demoniac because he was considering the pros and cons. He was considering whether respectable persons like Bhisma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulative principles of the different orders of life is transcendentally situated. So, this is completely different than what we usually encounter in life. That's why it's important to read Bhagavad-Gita to straighten out our misconceptions. Okay, so Arjuna, it says, is not born with demoniac qualities. Okay, so someone might say, oh, wait a minute, that's Arjuna, but me, I was born in this family, and they're definitely demons, you know. They're doing all the things that are wrong. Or they're partially doing things right and partially doing things wrong. Right? So, is there any hope for me? Yes. Krishna says, surrender unto me. Daivihi esa gurumai mama maya duratyaya mam eviye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. Surrender unto me and I will help you cross over all the obstacles of life and come back to Godhead. So there's hope for everyone. Mam hi na vyatyanti ite let's see, 9th chapter. Mam hi partha vyatyanti te purusham purushara. No. 1 second. Mam hi partha vyapasrityad yepisu papayonaha striya vaisas tata sudras tepiyanti param gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, Sudras, can attain the supreme destination. So that means there's hope for everyone. Even if you're born in a demoniac family, there's hope. Okay, but in the case of Arjuna, he's born in a very noble family and with noble qualities, and therefore his fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra is not demoniac. Why? What is the defining quality of Arjuna that shows that he's not a demon? He's considering the pros and cons of his action before he acts. That's the difference between demons and devotees. Demons will not consider the pros and cons of their actions because they're being dictated to by lust, anger, and greed. So they'll just make a quick decision and then do it. Whereas a devotee is not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or lust, or whatever. And he's considering very carefully what will be the result of his action. Well, Arjuna is saying, you know, I'll probably end up killing Dronacharya. He was my guru. And Bhisma, he's the grandsire, he's the great-grandfather of the whole dynasty, Kuru dynasty, in which Arjuna is a member of that dynasty. Therefore, this is a proof that he doesn't have demoniac qualities. Whereas the demons, they don't care about anything. Once they make their mind up, they just go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter what the result is. You know, who they hurt in the process. So now we know the fundamental difference between a demon and a devotee. The devotee will carefully consider the pros and cons of an action before they act. And a demon will just go ahead and do whatever they want because they're being dictated to by their lust, anger, and greed. The devotee, even if he engages in war, it's not because of anger. It's because of duty. So and that's why I've always said that marriage should be engaged in as a matter of duty, not as a matter of love, because love can turn to hate very easily. And then when there's hate, there's destruction. When there's anger, there's destruction. So one should perform actions in life as a matter of duty. Then one can be tolerant with failure or adverse situations. They know very well that adverse conditions are not going to last forever. Just like winter doesn't last forever, although it looks like it now, but soon it'll be spring again, and then it'll be summer. So therefore, a devotee is not discouraged in any situation because he has a full panoramic, balanced view of life and full faith in Krishna. Okay. And then we just read that one has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. By knowledge and devotion. So that is the secret to success in life, not academic knowledge. Knowledge means spiritual knowledge, and spiritual knowledge includes material knowledge, but in the perspective of using material things correctly in the service of Krishna. Right? Just like someone noticed the other day that I eat sprouted fenugreek, methi seeds every day. And they said, how come you do that? And I said, well, Prabhu, if I tell you all my secrets, then you'll become very happy and healthy. So if I tell you everything, then you'll be healthy and happy. You want to know all this stuff? He said, yes, I want to know that. I said, okay, well, you have to eat methi seeds every day. You just soak them in water. It doesn't cost anything. And when they're soft, then you eat them. And they're not so bitter either. They're slightly bitter, but it's not. You get used to it, and it keeps you healthy. And it doesn't cost anything. So, this is what happens when this is real knowledge, right? I mean, people look at methi seeds, oh, what's that? That's nonsense. If they knew how beneficial they are, they would, if you have a hat, they would take their hat off every time they see a methi seed. Pay honor to the hat, to the methi seed. It's a powerful medicine, right? But it's very cheap, and it looks like nothing, right? And in India, of course, in wintertime, they make methi sweet balls, right? No?
Yeah, I think I saw Dividrishti Mataji made one time.
No, in traditional villages, they make all the time in the winter.
My mom made rice, milk, and methi seeds.
Right.
And jaggery.
Let me ask you a question. Do you do that?
I do very rarely.
That means you don't do it.
Yeah. I used to do regularly.
Yeah. So there's something that your mom was doing regularly, you're not doing. You see my point? Because we say, what is that? It's some superstition. I'll take, Advil and aspirin and the other things. That's the real thing, the Advil. No, it's not. The real thing is the methi. It's not the Advil.
Today.
That's only because I'm telling you. And that's good. That's why I'm talking about it, you see.
And that's true, 100% true. Like my grandma, I had a very upset stomach once, and I went to different doctors. They gave me different medicine and everything. Nothing was down.
Yeah.
And she told me simple thing from the teacher, and it was like anything.
Oh, tell us what that simple thing was. You notice he was going to not tell us. Ajwan.
No, Ajwain is for something else, like it's like fennel seeds,
Somph.
soap, and some 2 more items, and 1 poppy seeds.
What are the 2 more items?
I have to ask my mother, I don't know.
But you better find out real quick. I want to know tomorrow. No, it's probably amla. Not amla?
No, I had a loose motion,
Yeah.
so my stomach was not holding things for a long time, and I had problems in my college also. So she gave me that one, bottle.
Hey, you were eating food at the college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it,
You were eating poison at the college.
another very interesting thing only what my Ishita, my daughter, she was every month she will have fever.
Fever.
Fever, yeah. For 2 or 3 days she will have fever, and it was going on for 6, 7, 8 months, and things were not in control at all basically. And then my grandmom told me, to my mother and to my wife, and she told something, and they started giving her for 15 days. They gave her. And after
Something.
Again, he's not telling us what it is.
So, and that one item in that is khub kala.
What is that?
Some of the herb is called khub kala,
Okay.
and
Something black. Color.
no, not kala, kala.
Kala.
Is art something.
Okay.
So that.
Oh, like Kalakshetra.
It's kada basically.
Yeah.
They made a kada out of it.
Yeah.
We have that one here also.
Kada means the broth, the hot water.
Okay.
Yeah, and that really helped her. Then after that, she never got that purpose.
Okay. So, this is the real knowledge, you see, and we're not interested in it.
That is
We're
something.
not interested at all in it.
Yes.
I don't see you writing a book, what my grandmother told me. Huh? You're not spending the time to do that. You're not spending the time to do that either, right? So we're not really interested in this traditional knowledge. Because we've been dumbed down by academic knowledge, you see. That's the danger of academic knowledge. Whereas these things are much more important for our life. Yeah.
And this material knowledge, whatever we are getting nowadays, is driven by lust and greed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And which is coming from parampara, like from generation to generation, that is, the base is the love there.
Yes.
That's why
Your ancestors are speaking to you through that knowledge. Yeah. Okay, so then we're back on chapter 6, and we're on verse number 9, is it? No, we didn't read verse 8. We began, but I don't think we finished it.
we have to read.
Huh?
We have to read.
This is a very important verse, verse number 8. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vichitendriya yukta iti uchite yogi samalostrasmakanchanaha.
You want to read?
Go ahead. Go ahead, she can read.
Book knowledge without realization of the supreme.
Read the verse first.
Oh, sorry.
A
Read the
person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by the virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebble, stone or gold, as the same. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless.
There you go. Useless. U-S-E-L-E-S-S. Absolutely useless. And without realization of supreme truth. Because you cannot use that language, that book knowledge, practically in your everyday life. Go ahead.
This is stated as follows. Ataha Shri Krishna namadi na bhavet griham indriya sevano mukhe hi jivhado swayam ev spruhati ada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Shri Krishna through this material contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord are revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.234. This Bhagavad-Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become
You
Krishna.
notice he uses the word science.
Bhagavad Gita.
Science. This is the real science, not junk science. This is the real science. Go ahead.
Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship.
Yeah, mundane scholarship, mundane academic knowledge. Go ahead.
One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness.
Sadhu Sangha, absolutely important for spiritual knowledge. Go ahead.
A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service.
So that's the point. See, most people are not satisfied with pure devotional service. They're satisfied with pure business. You know, opening up a 7-Eleven or starting a pharmaceutical company or, starting a medical marijuana business. You know, they're not satisfied with pure devotional service. They think it's a waste of time. Go ahead.
By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions.
So that means that by academic knowledge, one becomes imperfect and not steady in their convictions. Convictions is things that you firmly believe in, right? So people are wavering due to academic knowledge. One day it's this, next day it's something else. Their mind is chanchal, it's flickering all the time. It's never steady, never. So one quality of a successful person is they know how to focus their mind on a goal, and they work progressively to achieve that goal. Now, that goal might be material, in the case of materialists, but they use that technique of dhyana, focusing on it, right? And organizing everything to reach that goal. So, but when you focus on reaching the goal of becoming Krishna conscious, then that's real perfection. And it says it here. It says, by realized knowledge, one can becomes perfect. That means no more influenced by modes of material nature, karma, time, duality, and confusion, lust, anger, greed, and so forth. Right? Then you're a free person. Go ahead.
By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones.
There you go. That's the answer to his question. You don't need academic knowledge to succeed in life. Transcendental knowledge is adequate for achievement of all goals, and the ultimate goal is.
But Prabhuji, to survive in the material world, we have to study something academically.
Yeah, you have to study Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Then you'll have all knowledge. That's what Prabhupada said. He's saying it right here.
We can achieve everything with that one. See, the main thing which people look outside is your attitude nowadays.
Yeah.
Your attitude should be good and pleasing to everybody. And the second thing is your focus. Where you are focusing. If you are not focusing in one point, then you cannot achieve anything then, anywhere in the life.
Yeah. No, see, traditionally, people would learn by apprenticeship. Right? Apprenticeship means you go to a guru. Now, there are different types of guru, like Karna went to Parasuram to learn the art of war and master different weapons. So that is the best way to learn. You want to be a stockbroker, you go to a school where they teach you, stockbrokers teach you how to invest in stocks. right? You want to be a doctor, you become the assistant to the doctor, and he'll teach you everything he knows. Just like there's one veterinarian, he's training a new veterinarian. So the new veterinarian basically works for very little money, but goes with the doctor everywhere and sees, what he does. So that's the way that traditionally people learned. Or it was in a family thing, like in a family, their family is sculptors. So the father teaches the son how to sculpt, and then the son later on teaches his son or daughter how to sculpt. And it goes on generationally. And they earn their living. They don't have to go to school, spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school. And what do you end up? You end up becoming an atheist. Okay, you make some money, maybe you make good money, but you become an atheist, you become addicted to bad habits and so forth. Now, not everyone becomes a demon, especially if they have a good family upbringing, but they become materialists. That's for sure. That's 100% sure. They become materialists. They might not be demons in the sense of being very sinful, because you can achieve sense gratification, as I said, by following piety and following impiety. Both ways you can achieve sense gratification. Okay, so I think we're going to stop here.
One example I want to give you.
Yes.
By one of the relatives, he was a medical rep. So he studies his own life, medical rep and other things.
Medical what?
Representative.
Who goes to the...
Rep, not rap. Representative. You said rap. I thought he was a rap singer,
So he studies his life, all medical things in his life. And he knows some accounts also.
But he was in the sales.
Yeah,
He wasn't an academic. He didn't get a degree in pharmaceutical things or what. Yeah.
That I don't know much about, but the important point is he was going some big factory to help them out in accounts. So he knew some accounts also, and he was a good-hearted person. And one day the factory owner approached him and asked him who would like to join him.
Yeah.
Means he doesn't have those knowledge.
He doesn't have the knowledge, yeah. But he's a good person. He's honest, hardworking, so forth.
Yeah. So, and he told that how I can join you, I don't know anything about your business. And
He said, "Don't worry, we'll train you."
and only he left his job, and he was going to become a big shot in that field also. But he left that job and joined that person, and he's enjoying life right now.
Yeah,
And he's a director in his company now.
yeah. Because he was honest, he had good qualities. You see?
That's gave him the whatever you need in material life.
This is in India or America?
India.
So let me tell you the truth. Most universities, they know that the education kids get in high schools in the United States is crap. They don't, what they're looking for is, do they know how to read and do they know math? If they know those two things, then they'll take care of everything else. Even if they don't know English very well, they'll take care of everything else in college. But not everyone is good in math and English. But even if they're not that good, if they're honest and willing to work hard, they'll succeed, whether they go to college or not. I know a lot of people. I know this one Mexican guy came to the United States as an illegal immigrant, right? And he went to work on this farm in Washington State, and he couldn't even speak Spanish correctly, right? He never had any education. Well, the farmer, he was an older man. All his kids went to college. They were not interested in the farm, right? And this guy was working hard every day. So when the farmer was about to die, he left the farm to this guy. The house, the car, the tractors, everything, left it to this guy, this Mexican guy, who was an illegal immigrant, right? But he helped him get, legal, and before he died. And this guy became rich. Because it's a big farm. Only because he was honest and hardworking. So, people have a false sense of what success is. Now, there's the example I just gave you. One of the richest men in Canada, he and his wife were murdered this week. Right? They were murdered.
Canada?
Yeah. And because he made a lot of enemies in his business. Although he has a huge business. So, it's better to just be an honest, hardworking person. You'll succeed.
People realize that thing and they want to get associated with them and they would like to help them out.
Yeah.
The person is cunning and corrupt. Nobody wants to get associated with them.
Yes, definitely.
One has to be loving nature and to share things. And definitely Lord hand is there in that thing.
Of course.
Yeah. Without him, nothing can happen. Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Well, now we'll all quit going to college.
So much competition.
Whoever is sitting in this room, let us. Grade, probably after 12th grade, he studied his own, learned, he was having interest in that field, computer science. He studied his own and he was like an honest, genuine person.
Yeah, he didn't have a degree.
No, nothing. He never went to college.
Sorry, Prabhu, but in India, if you are 12th grade, you will not get any job.
Brother, if you are nowadays people.
In India, you can't.
No. In
Survive,
no,
I
no.
guess, in
It's,
India.
yeah, it's tough. I know that.
It's very
Because
tough.
education only takes one to the interview, the selection process. After selection process, a person's ability it depends. Nobody wants to hire like PhD person who doesn't know anything, who doesn't know how to talk. Nobody is going to hire. So it's up to that process, and there for genuine person, Krishna will help.
Like, for example, Einstein, he didn't have a college degree. He didn't, believe it or not, he didn't have a college degree. He studied on his own, and of course he had more than a college degree, by the work he did. He was a clerk. He was some kind of a clerk in a little place in Switzerland, and then all of a sudden, became this big scientist. There are a lot of people that don't, sometimes they succeed tremendously, but they don't have any education, academic education. They learned on their own. Yeah.
I think people like in my company, like all of big people there, they think very straight and simple and to the focus.
Yes.
That's the key thing which I've seen in them.
Yeah.
Normal person doesn't think like that actually.
Well, people are diverted all the time. Yeah. To be able to be, but see, that's what you learn by chanting your rounds every day. You learn to focus the mind, and then focus the mind on Krishna. And then you take that with you with whatever else you do. You focus your mind, you get the thing done, right?
That's something every day.
7:30.
Haribol, thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada.